Thousands of groups from across the U.S. gathered this Labor Day to protest. NWA and other protesters are calling the event Workers Over Billionaires because they say they feel the majority of people in the country are struggling.
There's a lot of hard times going on in America for everyone. It's not just young adults, it's not just for kids, it's not old, elderly people, it's everyone that's suffering.
Organizers say recent legislation is a gut punch to the working class.
The bill that was passed last July was giving huge tax cuts to billionaires while breaking things like Medicaid.
One demonstrator I spoke with is a grad student at the University of Arkansas. He says recent cuts to education programs inspired him to make a run for Congress in 2026.
But seeing the cuts to science and the cuts to a lot of these Medicaid and a lot of things that people rely on, and without another alternative, I felt like it was my time to stand up and to try and make a change.
Protesters say today's event is a peaceful demonstration, something they hope will be a symbol of their intentions.
Around 500 people filled into designated spots along the beach at St. Pete Pier, all with a shared purpose: to unite and rise.
We are coming together as Americans, we're uniting, and we're rising up. We're rising up against the ridiculous, anti-democratic, unconstitutional antics that are coming at us fast and furious out of Washington and out of Tallahassee.
Organizers Amy Weintraub says an issue of concern for her is President Donald Trump's plan to end mail-in voting. Amy says it's depriving someone of their right to vote.
We're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and as home care and child care providers, they want to take away our overtime pay. Who wants to work and don't get paid?
We did hear from a lot of speakers. Among their concerns, changes to overtime pay, Medicaid, Social Security, as well as immigration, specifically undocumented workers being detained with no path to citizenship. Now, I did speak with Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. She encourages people to continue speaking out, saying public pressure does help, considering Congress is facing hurdles when it comes to blocking Trump-backed policies.
Democrats are in the triple minority, so we don't have the power to pass legislation. So part of why I'm here today and part of what we're doing to fight back is to get Prop 50 passed here in California to make sure that California values get represented in Congress so that we can actually pass the kind of legislation that folks here talked about today to protect workers, to protect people's benefits, to make sure people are getting what they need to survive.
With most people either relaxing at home or planning a barbecue for Labor Day, demonstrators in Palm Beach Gardens are doing the opposite.
We see what's happening and we really have to stand up.
Creating posters and making their voices heard as loud as they can against several policies signed by President Trump or those he supports since being back in the Oval Office.
Everyone is out here to protest what's happening in our government.
Organizer of the protest, Dr. Suzanne Foley, tells me the big, beautiful bill signed into law this summer is a main reason to raise her voice.
Billionaires not being taxed, especially a lot of signs about our health care being decimated, the CDC being decimated, immunizations being decimated.
Adding to her stance, Tamika Jones with $11.99 at CIU, the country's largest healthcare union.
They cut Medicaid, the very program that pays nursing home patients in Florida. These cuts are not about saving money. They're about giving the richest people in this country even bigger tax breaks.
We need to do this, and we need more people out here to fight for us.
Now, all these protesters plan to stay out here for hours in the heat just to make sure their voices are heard this Labor Day, and they plan to do it again next month.
Thousands took over San Francisco streets with a collective message.
What are you marching for today?
I mean, just labor power, I think, and power of the people against a government that's not only corrupt, but also seems hell-bent on destroying everything good that we've created with this country. So I think this is the least we could do.
The group marched from San Francisco's Mission Street to Dolores Park as part of a nationwide day of action, among them Senator Scott Wiener.
Donald Trump is trying to destroy our democracy. He's trying to destroy unions, destroy workers, and empower the largest corporations in the world. And he's creating a secret police to mass deport immigrants who have built this country.
What do you think protests like the ones where we're at today will change?
Yeah, when you look at how authoritarian regimes end, It's because people mobilized. There's a mass mobilization.
The main banners leading the crowd focused on the latest immigration operations across the country and wealth inequality.
We are here to protect public services and to let everyone know it's workers over billionaires. And that these corporations need to pay their fair share of taxes. We're talking about labor rights. We're talking about social rights, all rights. They are stripping public services away from the community.
In the crowd, you have people of all ages and backgrounds all joining a nationwide day of protest.
It was my idea.
10-year-old Salo marched with his family with a sign they made at home.
Turn up the heat and melt ice.
A message that many shared against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement that has detained a number of undocumented immigrants across the city in recent months.
It's my First Amendment right, and I stand united with people all around me.
From people lining South Main Street in Torrington to a large crowd outside the state capitol in Hartford.
This is a good crowd. Yeah. It's happening all around the country.
People joined protests across the state worried about the direction the country is going.
We need to be out here today. Our country is falling apart and we're allowing it to happen, and we need to get rid of the people in power.
Multiple recent polls found President Trump's job handling underwater, with Quinnipiac one of the lowest at 37% approve, 55% disapprove. Today we saw a range of concerns, including about health care, democracy, and the deportations being carried out.
The immigrants are the lifeblood of what keeps this country going. If we didn't have our immigrants, we'd have a shrinking population. He's got his priorities totally wrong.
On this Labor Day, there was also focus on protecting workers and lessening the influence of the billionaires.
The people here are demanding protections for things like Medicaid, Social Security, and other programs for the working class.
I provide mental health services to my community, and I'm very upset that they're cutting Medicaid to the poor who rely on Medicaid for mental health and for medical treatment. And it's very disgusting that people who can afford to pay for medical care are cutting it for those who cannot.
On Labor Day at Colorado Springs City Hall, a very large group of people expressing their anger with the Trump administration.
We take Jesus' words seriously about loving the enemy, about not abusing others, and so anyone who claims to be a Christian but is in support of hate and other things is not following my Lord.
Meanwhile, protesters at Workers Over Billionaires spoke out against ICE and in support of groups they say are under attack, like the immigrant, Black, Indigenous, and trans communities.
Immigrants are less than half as likely as native-born Americans to be criminals. And so when he says they're criminals, he is lying through his teeth, and so are all the others who support him.
They're also calling for investments into things like schools, healthcare, and housing for all.
He is supporting his billionaire buddies by giving them tax breaks instead of supporting the average American.
Saying our democracy is under threat. They hope people get engaged with politics instead of tuning it out.
And people are so numb to it because we're so flooded and overwhelmed with the constant decision making that puts Americans at risk. So I wanted to be here today to join the voices of others that are saying democracy matters, the Constitution matters, and we do not have a king, we have a president.
The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution, it's going to be the labor movement that stitches it back together. The labor movement that brings Black folks, white folks, Asians, it brings brown folks together. This is the city that said keep hope alive. The city that birthed yes we can. And the city that will defend this country.
Stop the billionaire takeover. Essentially what they're saying is they want to close the wage gap. Some of the things that we heard discussed this morning is AI taking over, wages being paid to keep up with inflation and the rising costs, and also the immigration rates certainly taking precedent over the conversation this year. Now the concept is working people rising up to stop the billionaire takeover. Here's more of what we heard of this morning.
We are in a crisis, folks.
They are, in the meantime, what are they doing? They're gutting our services. They're gutting our jobs. 700 rural hospitals because of the Medicaid cuts. They're firing federal workers who keep our communities going, right at the same time as they prop up greedy CEOs and billionaires who are profiting off our labor.
Protesters in Maryland spent their Labor Day taking to the streets once again, voicing their displeasure over the federal government's actions taken under the direction of President Trump.
No, we're going in a very dangerous path, very dangerous path.
Monday's rallies are part of the 50-51 movement that also hosted May Day protests earlier this year, this time with a focus on the close relationship seen publicly between the ultra-wealthy and high-ranking government leadership, which protesters believe ultimately harm the American worker.
To rally and march, stopping at places that symbolize billionaire and corporate influence and government complicity.
But the list of issues that brings protesters out is long and continues to grow. Fred Weimer is a former Towson pastor who worked with low-income groups.
So many of these federal programs that have supported the needs of people, supported organizations that help them, are being cut away. I am terrified for what that means for our community.
In Colombia, it was a family affair for Kathleen Fetter, who typically has a laid-back Labor Day gathering. But this is something she says she was called to do.
If we don't turn out, then we're not going to be seen or heard. We're going to be looking at a minority, and I don't think we are a minority.
Rallying instead of resting this Labor Day.
This is the best way to spend my day off from work, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
Not for workers' exploitation!
People like Heather Daniger are joining labor unions and community groups from Baltimore and beyond, rallying and marching for workers and against Trump administration policies and billionaires who they say are taking over the U.S. government.
People need 2 and 3 jobs just to survive now. This isn't a new problem with Trump. This is a problem that workers have been dealing with for decades. And if we don't turn that around, if we don't help working families, we're going to have 2 classes. The rich, the haves and the have-nots. And I think that's un-American.
I care about our future. I care about my children's future. I want them to have the same rights that I had growing up, and want them to be able to live the best life that they can live.
Chants echoed as signs waved in the air on the steps of the Pennsylvania state capitol. The Workers Over Billionaires protest brought people together from across the state and country, united by a shared message. Workers deserve a stronger voice.
This is our monthly protest. It's coinciding with Labor Day, and we're here to support the union movement, to protest against the current administration's policies and how they're attacking the union at the VA, other sources, and all of their other policies. They're too numerous to list, frankly.
Organizers say they've been rallying monthly since February, but Labor Day carries special meaning.
There is a million things that are going on, and it is our job to continue to raise our voice, to make a point of this, to highlight all of those things, because it's really easy to just get lost with all of the things that they're doing and to not have them be addressed and forget about them. So we're here to remind everybody.
For many here, the protest is personal, an opportunity to demand better protections and policies that affect their families and livelihoods.
There's so many things to protest that I don't even know where to begin, but just gotta get the people out and try to show that people don't agree with what's going on in this country right now.
Attendees called for stronger protections on issues like healthcare, education, LGBTQ rights, veterans benefits, and immigration policy.
I have 9 grandchildren. I'm fighting for them at this point because we're giving them a terrible world. You know, I want them all to be happy. I don't want them to live in this.
This is what democracy looks like. Organizers say this is just one step in a much larger movement, and they plan to be back at the Capitol next month.
It's always good to see everybody come out. I like seeing signs. I like seeing the kids. It's nice to see.
Their goal is simple: keep showing up, keep marching, and keep pushing for change.
Protesters marched in a parade through the city, rallying behind the theme of Workers Over Billionaires. The demonstration was organized by the Greater Boston Labor Council. It says frustration is growing among working families at the outsized influence of billionaires on the government and economy.
The labor movement
knows that workers are what builds our cities and towns all across the state. And so when there's attack on our communities, when they're cutting Medicare, when they're cutting Medicaid, where they're trying to cut public education, where they've cut funding for all these infrastructure projects, an attack on our communities is an attack on our workforce. And the workforce that has built our cities, built our state, and that everybody, and built our democracy. So that's what's at stake here.
Yes, several public officials were in attendance for the parade, including Maura Healey, our governor, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, and Senator Elizabeth Warren.
This Labor Day, we are standing up to Donald Trump's attacks on working people. He thinks he can just rip up union contracts and give tax cuts to billionaires like Elon Musk and scapegoat immigrants and DEI as the boogeyman to all of his problems. Well, Donald Trump, you got another thing coming. You want to attack workers and spread lies about Chicago? We're not going to take the bait. We're not extras in your little show. We don't got time for that. We're the labor movement. We're working people.
And as a high school history teacher, it is incumbent upon me to use this platform to remind you that there have been many inflections where our country debated its democracy and the people's humanity. And every single time this country had that debate, it was workers allied with the people who saved our democracy.
Labor is not simply doing picnics and parades. We are fighting for a better life for all Americans. That's what Labor Day should be about.
Which side are you on? Are you on the side of Trump and the billionaires? Or are you on the side of workers fighting for a living wage for all?
Hundreds of people running, walking, biking while protesting the Trump administration this Labor Day. Organizers tell me it came together last minute. They're calling it the DC Freedom Run.
Well, we're running in opposition to the takeover of our city. We're running in opposition to our friends and neighbors who are being snatched off the streets with little warrant other than the color of their skin.
But those protesters confronting the stats showing that crime is down. Today, as the nation celebrates its workers across the country, there are nearly 1,000 worker over billionaire protests planned for the day. 21,000 federal workers in D.C. have been laid off since January.
In the heart of the district.
When I say DCAT, you say fight back. DCAT. Fight back. DCAT. Fight back. DCAT. Fight back. DCAT. Fight back.
Protesters took to the streets.
This is where we can hear each other. This is where we can meet each other.
Their many signs and flags say it all. They don't support the National Guard's presence in D.C. or President Trump's efforts to federalize the city, claiming law enforcement is targeting the district's most vulnerable.
We're watching their rights being trampled upon. We're seeing children made afraid in their communities.
Energy is electric. Everybody, you can tell, has a lot of anger, a lot of rage, righteously at what's happening. All these troops coming into the city, the National Guards are most densely concentrated on the downtown and the symbolic gestures of defense against these monuments. And we are making a statement that this is our city.
Some of the youngest protesters.
I'm 13, so I'm 15 years old. I turned 15 last week.
Not afraid to speak up.
And I really believe that people should have a say in what they believe is right.
I hope in the present that this doesn't touch any of the schools.
Blocks over at the White House, the president's chief of staff for policy defends his boss's orders.
As President of the United States, he will not relent, and he will use every authority and tool at his disposal to ensure that the capital city of the United States is safe for all Americans, and we will never waver, and he will never waver from fulfilling that mission.
In the district.
This is how we learn different points of view, different perspective. This is what makes us community.